Hey guys, how's it going? Hope everything is well. Just gonna read some serial story today. Might check on my phone, get the stuff coming up, make sure the stuff's coming up, and then we'll get straight to it. Just S.S today. Cool. Oh well. Make sure it looks good. There it is, the highlighted words. Guess I'll get to it. I'll just revise what's happened. So, after Tom blew up the garage at his mother's place, the shed at his mother's place, he was completely uninjured because he used his powers. But they were found out, and Vanessa has scurried him away in the middle of the, really early morning, and they are hiding out on top of a mountain pass where she is training him to use the second form of energy absorption. They're doing a bit of fighting, so I'll read from just above the highlighted section. "Whoa, that's crazy," said Tom, jumping out of the range of Vanessa's counter. This form is used to harness momentum and transfer it to spiritual energy. Very useful in a fight. If you can almost completely reduce the impact of someone's spiritual lightning," Vanessa said, smiling. Tom looked at her amazed and asked, "The second punch, you didn't block. You just used the liquidy stuff. Do you just move it like you move energy? Or was that automatic?" "Well, when you first learn it, it's quite hard to move without a lot of thought, so it's easier to keep it in your hands. After a couple of years, you will start to think of it like another limb, and eventually you'll be able to move it independent of your hands. Kind of means you can block something at the same time as attacking, which is really useful." So, just to recall, the second form, you harness your energy together and you form sort of like a liquidy shield. And then if someone hits it, that energy that they hit you with is transferred into your own body. Okay. Tom didn't waste any more time questioning. Holding his hands up in the air, he focused on creating the thin haze around his arms. Once the first piece of spiritual energy started to creep into his body, Tom condensed the haze, pushing it into his hands, pouring his energy into it. Suddenly, a massive arc of spiritual lightning went shooting into the sky, and Tom cut his power. No, you're being too hasty. It needs to be soft energy. Focus more on the feeling of being grounded," yelled Vanessa in Tom's direction. Tom refocused, concentrating solely on the sensation of being grounded, and began to move the haze from his hands. Slowly, layers by layer, his spiritual energy began to build, and Tom marveled as it took on an almost physical quality, and eventually forming a crimson, meaning red, oil-like substance. It swirled around his hands, and Tom started to feel energy trickling in. "I can feel the wind," he said, surprised to be gaining energy. "Yeah, that's right. Wind is just air with kinetic energy. So, some small spikes of energy you're absorbing are the small amount of energy from the air moving." Do you think you're ready to try and block a punch? Vanessa asked. Before Tom could reply, she was flying towards him, fists at ready. Tom couldn't help himself and instinctively ducked the first blow and offered a counter with his feet. Block that thing, Vanessa yelled before her second fist came his way, and Tom rushed to ready himself, focusing so hard on getting his hands into the correct position, he lost command of his spiritual energy, and the crimson liquid encasing his hands disappeared. Vanessa's super-powered fist cracked into his palms, and palms of Tom's hands, sending him flying through the air, crashing into the trees at the edge of the clearing. Suddenly, his vision became blurry, and he slumped to the ground. Just checking in on the... Hi, Eddie. Just reading some serial story. I'll carry on, do some of chapter 21, and then, yeah. When Tom finally came around, Vanessa had set up the whole camp and started a little fire in the middle of the clearing. Sorry about that. I wanted to make my punch fast enough that you couldn't dodge it. Guess I went a bit hard. Tom smiled at her. You think? I'm going to remember that one when I'm stronger than you, he added with a laugh. Hobbling back to his feet, Tom shook off the lingering aches of his body and began the process of trying to absorb kinetic energy again. This time, it came faster, and within the space of about 10 minutes, he was standing in front of Vanessa, hands at the ready, circled in a crimson-like liquid. You ready for this? She yelled, while hopping and throwing warm-up punches in the air. Tom didn't answer, instead focused solely on her movements, trying to predict when she would attack. Suddenly, her little hop stopped, and Vanessa came flying towards Tom, faster than anything he had ever seen. Tom quickly formed his block, flinching on the expected impact, but instead of the bone-jarring collision, a wave of energy washed over him just before he felt Vanessa's hands lightly tap his palms. Tom opened his eyes to see Vanessa smiling, and there was a moment of pure joy between the two of them. Both teacher and student ecstatic the punch hadn't knocked him out. The moment was broken by Vanessa sending her knee flying into Tom's stomach. And once again, he blocked it, absorbing all the power from her attack. From that point, the battle raged. Vanessa was fast, even faster than Leaf, but Tom managed to block or dodge every blow that came his way. With each passing moment, he grew. With each passing moment, he grew, not only gaining energy from each block, but learning about the technique of fighting at such a high pace. Suddenly, Vanessa pulled away, jumping clear of the battle, and began to speak. You need to work on your counter, Tom. You can't just wait for your enemy to run out of energy. Tom looked at her puzzled, and he tried to move his liquid substance around his body to free his hands. Pushing it down to his forearm. Every time it reached his elbows, the liquid would start to thin and become more like a haze from the first form. Finally, Tom gave up and looked in Vanessa's direction for help. Vanessa smiled and touched her hands together, transferring the oily substance from one hand to the other with what seemed like no effort. What is this stuff called? Tom asked, touching his hands together and willing the substance to move. Most of us call it hydro. But that, being that it feels kind of like liquid, Vanessa replied, as Tom started to build a rhythm of now transferring it from hand to hand with ease. You ready for round two? Vanessa yelled. Tom didn't wait. Didn't wait for her to make the first move. Moving his hydro to his left hand, he supercharged his legs and went flying into battle. Vanessa was expecting a full-on frontal assault, but just before Tom reached her, he fell into a slide tackle, aiming for her legs. The slide tackle was somewhat effective, and Tom managed to clip Vanessa's legs and avoid her counterattack. Now behind Vanessa, Tom slowed himself with the free hand lashed out at the back of her knees, hoping to slow the far superior fighter down. Unfortunately, by this time, Vanessa was well aware of Tom's plan and stayed out of Tom's plan. Sorry, guys. Unfortunately, by this time, Vanessa was well aware of Tom's plan to stay out of reach of her hands and simply moved her hydro to defend her legs. Quickly, the tide of the battle was turning, and Tom was no longer the aggressor, but defending Vanessa's deadly punches from above. Kicking the ground hard, Tom did a full backflip, landing lightly on his feet just in time to block another blow. This one felt different, but Tom didn't have the time to think why, offering his own counter before she leapt backwards, sailing out of his reach. Pausing at a distance, Tom moved his hydro to his hands and readied himself for Vanessa's next assault. Remember how I said you could use hydro to stop spiritual lightning? She yelled from the other side of the clearing. Yeah, but Suddenly, a thin bolt of blue lightning came flying in his direction, interrupting his reply. With no time to think, the lightning smashed into his hydro, sizzling with power, and Tom bolstered his defences. Not only did the block hold, it felt like somebody was pouring energy directly into his veins, and by the time the stream of lightning stopped, Tom felt sublime. Well done! Now you know you can block lightning, but if I had chosen to aim for your legs or your head, you wouldn't have been moving now, Vanessa yelled. Walking around the edge of the clearing, you need to be more vigilant, Tom. There is no way you can move your hydro fast enough to form a defense against lightning, so you have to predict when your enemy is going to use it. Look for signs that give away where they're going to attack as you fight, Vanessa added, raising her hands once again as Tom prepared for the next assault. This time, the stream of lightning from Vanessa's hands was much thicker, but Tom held his focus, meeting the lightning with his hydro. The feeling of having Vanessa's energy pouring into his body reminded him of the cells, except he wasn't having one. Except he wasn't just having one, they kept coming. The battle raged at a distance, and Vanessa released stream after stream of blue lightning, but each one more powerful and just slightly harder to block. As the pace and intensity of the battle increased, Tom found himself better able to predict her movements, eventually coming to him like second nature. He felt like he was seeing the attacks before they happened. Finally, Vanessa halted her onslaught and looked at Tom screwing up her face, sweat beading down her forehead. "Do you feel strange?" she asked, still puffing, the glow that normally covered her face replaced by a peaky white colour. Tom thought about the question for a few seconds before replying, "No, not really. I can tell I have a stupid amount of energy. I feel like I could blow some stuff up. But I'm fine. Why are you asking?" Just check the live stream again. Tane's there. Vanessa sat herself down. Leaning against the tree in the edge of the clearing, she began to absorb the sun's spiritual energy. "Well, to put it simply, you shouldn't be able to do what you just did. I'm a fully trained adult who has been using spiritual energy for over 20 years. It should start to feel like your soul is getting ripped apart before you run out of energy." Sorry, that sounds brutal. It should start to feel like you're getting ripped apart before I run out of energy. No, it should start to feel like your soul is getting ripped apart before I run out of energy, she said, struggling with the sentence. "What do you mean?" Tom asked, starting to feel a little worried about the colour was Vanessa. About how off colour Vanessa was looking. Remember, this is this fake world, so don't read into it anymore. Vanessa, we're just here. Vanessa looked. "Your soul is kind of like your lungs. The more you exercise, the more air/energy you could hold. If you push too hard, you start to feel in pain. You start to feel a pain wash through your body. And you start to lose control of your spiritual energy. If you go beyond that, your body literally explodes. I was hoping to push you to the breaking point, so you would understand the danger of absorbing too much energy from battle. But I couldn't. For some reason, you can already take more energy than I can give you," she finished, waving him away, before adding, "Go practice over there while I recover." Chapter 22. Think that's us? Done for the day.